The review you are about to watch is based on real opinions. The film was actually watched and examined at length. At least one afternoon was lost researching interesting bits of trivia about its origins. The movie is real, only its title has been changed to protect the producers. Furthermore... The hell are you doing? I'm explaining how the reviews work.
Well, stop it! The viewers aren't stupid, they know! And we're not changing the title of the movie!
But we should protect the...
Shut up!
And so our tale begins, like so many others, by an empty couch. He sits down with bounding energy, ready to dig into...
Shut the hell up already!
Hello, World Wide Web. I'm Shado, the internet personality with the best hair. And today I have something a little different for you. A story about a real killer. Ed Gein, to be specific. This shouldn't be too surprising, as this particular murderer was the inspiration for many horror movies, such as Psycho, The Silence of the Lambs, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. None of which I have, but like I said, many movies. Most recently, there's a film directly based on the actual events, In the Light of the Moon. I don't have that one either, but what I do have is the 1974 equivalent, Deranged. Starring Robert Blossom as Ezra Cobb, who just so happens to look and act almost exactly like Ed Gein, Deranged was the first film based on the man that actually tried to show an accurate account of the events. Of course, it being a movie, it still had to fudge a few things here and there, and it wasn't exactly big budget, working off $200,000. To be fair, adjusted for inflation, that's about $1 million, but put that in perspective, there are some Asylum movies I have that were put together for $1 million, so can't be that much. Anyway, let's... He was eager to launch into the review, ready to...
Don't make me come in there!
If that was the case, a 2010 movie couldn't have possibly been rated more accurate to the actual history. Unless, of course, they are the exact same movie and that one simply didn't change the names around. After the opening credits, we are introduced to Tom Sims, played by Leslie Carlson, who's repeating this same message we already saw when the film barely started.
Let me warn you. The events have been recreated in detail. Nothing has been left to the imagination.
Based on when this movie came out, that might not be the best thing to advertise. Also, this is a horror movie called Deranged, and you feel the need to warn the audience it might be a little disturbing?
It is not a story for the squeamish or the faint-hearted.
Well, I suppose it's a good thing after all. They saved themselves all those angry letters of people who accidentally brought it to their church groups, as horror fans often do.
Now that you stand warned, we can proceed with our story.
Good!
It is the story of Ezra Cobb.
That's not proceeding, that's continuing to explain shit before the movie actually starts.
Murderer, grave robber, necrophiliac perhaps?
While Ed Gein was certainly guilty of the first two, not only was there no evidence for the third, but after he had already confessed for everything else, he was specifically asked about that, and he said, no, they smelled too bad. So, that's kind of pushing it. Especially when the extended title for this movie is Confessions of a Necrophile. Now that he's done with the Tell Don't Show opening, the movie finally starts, but suddenly we learn that his role has changed from initiator to narrator, as he continues to explain who Ezra is.
To his neighbors, he was a devoted son. But that devotion masked a growing psychosis, which came to the surface when his mother died.
Show, don't tell. Or spoiler alert, as right now his mother is still alive. She did hear the narrator, though.
I'm dying.
No, Mama.
I'm dying, and that's all there is to it.
No. You just need some rest is all.
Oh, you be quiet and listen to me.
There are a few things I've got to tell you. This movie is based on a true story. It's very graphic. And I'm going to die. Got it? Have you got it, boy? But by dying, they mean she has an excuse to not shut up, as the scene keeps going, and going, and going.
Just need something to eat, that's all.
God will wash him away. Like he did in the time of Noah. Hurts.
Yeah, a 5-minute lifespan is tragically short in reality, but in a movie, it's annoyingly long. Die already!
Mama, no, please. No, please. No.
Well, that works, I guess, but I never quite heard that little detail about when his mother died. She suddenly started erupting blood from her face for no discernible reason. Wow. Unfortunately, the extremely slow-paced scenes of things we already know hasn't ended yet, as we go immediately to the funeral. A very low-key, empty, pretty boring funeral, as just Ezra and two others even bother to show up.
She looks nice, Ez. Real natural. You'd think she was just sleeping.
Which goes on for another 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Guys, we're 11 minutes into the film, and so far the narrator has already covered everything that's happened in one sentence.
A month passed.
Ah! What the hell are you doing there? It's not how narrators are supposed to work. He recoiled in horror at the direction that the movie had taken. Get the hell out of here! Narrator man explains that even after a year, Ezra couldn't treat his mother as really being dead, just away on a trip or something. I'll hand it to the movie that at least this time it doesn't fuck around and show us extremely slowly what the narrator is saying for the next 10 minutes, but actually uses it to set up the upcoming scenes.
Now why don't you come and bring me home? Bring me home. Bring me home. I'm coming, Mama!
Also, that was effectively kind of freaky. See what happens when you don't explain what's going to transpire before the scenes play?
And so he went to bring her home.
We know. We can see that. The grave robbery goes incredibly smoothly. I mean, he does get stopped by the police, but this is the 1940s. They're not going to club his head in and stomp his teeth into the curb during a traffic stop. Well, at least not if he's white. Point is, his explanation for the foul odor is accepted just like that.
It's just a hog I butchered is all. I forgot to take it out of the truck is all. It kind of got to smell it.
Jesus Christ, you ain't kidding.
The idea that he was apparently butchering pigs miles from his home in the middle of the night is also not worth questioning. Of course, he lets him go, and we watch his psychosis as he treats the cadaver as if his mother were still alive.
So he brought her home.
We know that! And get off the set! Mr. Narrator explains that Ezra wanted to restore his mother, and through researching embalming and taxidermy, eventually came to the idea of using others' body parts to fix her up. He also fails to mention the woman suit that Ed Gein was making. Yes, that's what the antagonist's actions in Silence of the Lambs was based off of, as Gein was also trying for an alternate sex change. However, that's not really brought up in this movie. His first source of women's bodies were those recently dead, as his neighbor inadvertently gave him the key to the information he needs.
You mean they put her in the paper just because she's dead?
What's the matter with you? That's such a danged obituary.
This leads to... Hold on! What are you doing?
Such a danged obituary. Such a danged obituary. Such a danged obituary.
Come on! Anyway, he proceeds with digging up new old dead women and getting a collection of spare parts around the house.
There she comes now, real easy.
And this is where that trait of Leatherface comes from, as there were 9 human skin masks discovered in Ed Gein's home. Of course, this super true-to-life, highly detailed account of events that leaves nothing to the imagination doesn't get to nearly that high a number.
But you two ladies have a lot to talk about.
After that, Ezra made many visits to the graveyard, bringing home bodies.
Oh, come on, just who the hell do you think you are, Rod Sterling?
You're traveling through another dimension. A dimension not only of sight and sound, but of mind. A journey into a wondrous land whose boundaries are that of imagination. Your next stop, the Twilight Zone.
No mention is made of passing time, but they skip ahead to where Ez begins going after the living. Of which there are 2 noted victims of Ed Gein, the earlier being Mary Hogan, 8 years after he dug up his mother. Don't let that bother you, though. This super accurate recreation of actual events that leaves nothing to the imagination has this victim that never appeared anywhere in any of the police reports. Nevertheless, this introduces us to Maureen Selby, played by Marion Waldman. Ezra came to see her because his mother said she was the only woman she could trust, despite the fact that, according to her, Amanda didn't trust her at all.
Amanda did take on a grudge, like a steel trap to a rabbit's foot. So then, whenever I tried to see her, she wouldn't even let me in.
He noticed the foreshadowing and questioned whether or not to bring it up to his audience. Ow! This conversation gets awkward in record time as Ezra talks about talking to his mother. As luck would have it, though, Maureen happens to have conversations with her late husband. Thus, she is not creeped out, but excited to spend more time with Ezra.
Why don't we all get together some night and hold a four-way seance? You, me, Herbert, and Amanda.
Oh, fuck. The super accurate retelling of true events doesn't go into overtly functional spirituality territory, does it?
I don't think she's, all there. In upstairs. You know what I mean?
Fuck. Don't know if it's a good idea or not to mention that I agree with the man. The seance commences, and it soon becomes obvious that Maureen's intentions have little to do with the spiritual and most everything to do with the physical.
He says he misses the carnal aspect of our marriage.
Carnival?
Well, thanks a lot, Ez. Now all I can think of is conolingus candy and fuckhole cake. Not giving up, she invokes her late husband's spirit to order Ezra to fuck her brains out.
She needs love, Ezra. Physical love.
Carnival?
Okay, I promise I won't insert that clip over any more lines. In any case, they head off to bed, but Ezra can't help but think about his mother, which is not much of a turn-on as she's screaming to him about STDs, so instead of doing things in the traditional manner, he takes a hold of his piece and blows its contents into her face.
The death of Maureen Selby did not seem to affect Des unduly.
Probably because, unless large important factors are just missing from the available information on the man, you completely made her up for the movie. But they finally do get to a victim actually based off the real murders.
Her name was Mary Ransom.
Ah, a truly ingenious pseudonym. Who would suspect that Mary Ransom is based on Mary Hogan? Also, stop doing that!
She was 34 years old and, if truth were told, a little over the hill.
You must have some seriously short hills in Wisconsin. Or is that a reference to the fact that the actual victim was 20 years older than that?
Night after night, Ezra stood watch at the bar, waiting for the opportunity to be alone with Mary.
I am seeing a problem with depicting a real-life killer's story as a horror movie with a generic horror movie setup. When you depict the town as being populated by idiots, it's a little disrespectful. Especially since even when he slashes her tires, and just so happens to be the only one in the parking lot ready to come to her aid when she discovers her back tires have been slashed, she isn't even remotely suspicious of him.
Could you just give me a lift down the filling station or something, huh?
Why, sure, if you want me to.
Okay, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it, huh?
Sure, any little thing there. Anything I can do.
I suppose it's not like she doesn't even know him. They showed him spending one night at the bar where he got ridiculously drunk and then demanded that she kiss him. Right, why the hell would she ever want to be anywhere alone with this man? He drives off with her, immediately taking a wrong turn and going to his place instead. She protests, but after he explains that he just so happens to have 2 spare tires back home, and not in his truck for some reason, and he'll put them on her car for free because all creepy older men who do favors like that never want something in return, she agrees and goes to his home.
How long do you plan to be?
Oh, just a minute or two.
I'll wait here. Would you just hurry it up?
Little did she know he would get lost in a game of Elder Scrolls, and would be hours before he...
You're not helping!
Unsurprisingly, he's not back in a minute or two, so after a fade to black, which, going by this movie's timeline, could be anything from seconds to years, Mary decides to get out and see what's taking him so damn long. This gives us a slow, suspenseful, disturbing horror scene as she takes the disgusting state of the home and foul odors not as cues to leave, but slowly investigate. On the plus side, we do get to see Ezra decked out in a woman's suit, incomplete and out of place as it may be, and now she decides to run. Poorly, easily being captured.
They're real happy. They think you're a fine girl. And they think you'll make me a real fine wife.
You establish he doesn't trust women, and finally show his vain attempt at a sex change, but now he wants a wife? Oh, come on, even the real Ed Gein wasn't this crazy! But hey, that's what poetic license is for, isn't it? After all, there's no other source of information for all these details, like her being stripped down to her undergarments to keep her from running away, and this little dinner party he set up for them. Also, he can show off his crafting skill.
That ain't cat good. John? What? 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 What?
Letting cat good.
John?
just a billiard room.
That is impressive, what with the very long and disturbing catalog of items that he happened to craft from the bodies. None of these actually appear anywhere on those lists. The closest is the Bone Club, but that's just because, surprise, surprise, he happened to have some bones lying around. He asks her to eat, but she can't as her hands are bound. Realizing this, he goes over to untie her, but gets distracted when he decides to fondle her instead. She plays along like she wants to caress him, so he does this stupid thing and finishes untying her hands, right next to the convenient sugar glass. Right, so don't take the big-ass knife and stab him to death right there, but run into the locked door like a moron. I know he didn't actually die like that, but come on, they changed enough for this movie already. He grabs the Bone Club and pursues her, in slow motion, of course, and uses it to paint the actress in the badly done, thick, bright stage blood. Which is not how she died. She was shot and decapitated. If they were going to change that to show off items he crafted from the bodies, at least they could have shown off some that he had actually made. Choke her to death with a belt made of nipples or something. Enough of that, though. It's time to introduce victim number 3. Or 2. The second one based on an actual victim, anyway, Bernice Warden. In the movie, she is Sally Mae, the cute young woman played by Pat Orr. I don't know exactly what age she is. I couldn't find any information on the actress's birth year, but no matter what it is, I'm pretty sure it's way far off of Bernice's 58. So how is it I'm so damn sure she's the character based on Bernice? Aside from the process of elimination, she happens to work at a hardware store, just like Bernice, and similarly, they just so happen to stock rifles there.
It's nice, all right.
Well, that's sure got to be an understatement, I guess. You know, the only thing wrong with you is you don't know nothing about guns, because if you did, you'd sure see what a beautiful piece of work this here thing is.
That's who he reminds me of. All this time I've been trying to put my finger on it. He's like a murderous version of Forrest Gump. His neighbor finishes up their order and leaves, so it's just Ezra, Sally, and the antifreeze. He decides not to buy it just yet, but instead go looking around the store some more. Ed did buy the antifreeze. He said he'd come back for it the next day, and he did, and then he killed her. That's how they caught him. But not Ezra, no. He saves his money, taking some of the ammo and silently loading it into the rifle, easily taking out Sally even after she notices him.
What are you doing, Ez?
Life is like a box of ammo. I take it. So they may have got her age and the specifics on the events surrounding her death completely wrong, but at least they got the method relatively... What? What the fuck is going on? She's not dead? He looks almost as surprised as you. Shut up! Actually, he looks more like Ernest Goes Psycho, but never mind that. Her being shot in the head with a high-caliber rifle merely grazed her skull, leaving her the opportunity to jump out of the car to safety. However, instead she runs off into the woods. Lucky for her, though, her boyfriend, Ezra's neighbor's son, is out setting rabbit traps with his old man, so when she runs through the same area... he's bound to hear her, right? And rather than remove it, which I understand would be hard, but come on, she doesn't even try. She just slinks over to the bushes to hide. It's too bad for her, then, that the chain leaves her location more than a little obvious.
Wait, no!
I bet Vern didn't see this one coming. So he shoots her. Off-screen. Because that's how you leave nothing to the imagination. In any case, the neighbor man returns to the hardware store to find Sally missing, and after the cop arrives, they figure because he isn't listed on the register receipts, he must be the one responsible.
He's crazy enough to do anything.
I've known Ez for 25 years, and I tell you, he could not do
it. Suppose we all go out to his place and take a look, huh?
You got it backwards! Ed Gein was the last recorded customer, which is why he was investigated. Not that he wasn't. And it wouldn't have changed the plot at all had you got it right. So why didn't you? But I see now why they made Sally 25 years younger than Bernice. I mean, who wants to check out a naked corpse unless it's smoking hot? And they accused Edward of being a necrophile. Never mind that. Creepy ending. Ezra guts Sally in the barn, but is interrupted by poetic license before finishing. The guys find Sally's corpse in the barn, unlike the real killing. She was found in a barn, but her head was elsewhere in a burlap sack, and all the blood had been washed out. And Ezra is found sat inside at the table along with his mother.
Several nights later, a group of townspeople, reportedly led by Harlan Coots, under cover of night, burned the Cobb farm to the ground.
Yes, his house was burned down, but nobody knows by who, and it was much later, likely in response to the fact that it was being auctioned off and could potentially become a tourist attraction. Anyway, that was Deranged, and, yeah, it's not as bad as it could have been. Of all the movies that came out around this time based on the murders and habits of Ed Gein, this one, while not a perfectly accurate tale, still was for its time the closest film version of the events that took place. Still, it's telling that it also is not one of the movies that has been remembered over the years, even for its connection to said killer. For one thing, the movie hasn't aged very well. Psycho was black and white, yes, but it's still timeless in its presentation. So much so, the remake felt more than a little pointless. This film can't hold up nearly as well to the passage of time. The grainy film is forgivable, and some of the side characters' less than stellar acting can be forgotten, but the big problem with this presentation is the lopsided and disjointed way the opening is strung together, coupled with the fact that they tried to make a movie based on real events but still filled it up with cliché horror scenes. However, the movie does a decent job in some regards. The corpse effects for what is basically a movie on a shoestring budget were damn nice, as they should be. Tom Savini was on the job. And Roberts Blossom was fucking fantastic as Ezra Cobb. His acting style was so subtle, you forget he was playing a character, which made the killer all the more creepy for the movie. At the end of the day, Deranged is a great film for classic horror film buffs, but because it hasn't held up well to the forces of time, and the premise at its heart is undermined by the decisions to make it into a generic horror film anyway, it can't rank any higher than 3 narrator interruptions out of 5.
I'm glad you rate me so high, as the yardstick upon which all films are judged.
Not all films. Just this one. And I'm done. But so are you.
What are you talking about?
What?
Oh, shit!
Thank you all for watching. I've been Shado. And remember, when a woman says that they don't want to be treated like a piece of meat, I don't think this is exactly what they mean, but I'm pretty sure it still applies.
I apologize for calling you a hog, Mum.